You walk into a restaurant, dressed in designer head to toe. You sit down and you have to calm your nerves because you're here for a blind date. You hear your name and you turn around and see a handsome man dressed in a designer suit. You exchange pleasantries, he sits down and he hands you his business card. And that's when you realized you fucked up. Because see, everything about you is fake. The name you gave him, fake. The clothes you're wearing, borrowed. But your day job that pays your bills, that's real. And when he gave you that business card, you realized this man is the CEO of your company. This man is your boss. And that is the events of Business Proposal that kicks off a myriad of shenanigans. Business Proposal is a 2022 Korean drama. It is an adaptation of the webtoon of the same name, originally written by Hae. The drama stars hyo-seop, who is our hero Kim Tae-moo, and our protagonist is played by Kim se-jeong, I think is how you pronounce her name. I first learned about the Business Proposal on Twitter. I think they had announced it, and I was like trying to get into webtoons at the time, so I was like, you know what, let me read this webtoon and then watch this drama. Devoured the webtoon in like 48 hours. It was great. The characters were fun, the scenario was really funny, it was really heartwarming, it was great, very succinct, and honestly, I can say the drama stays pretty true to the adaptation. If you're just here for a quick review of Business Proposal, I can give it to you real quick, all right? Romance, characters, the character development, okay? Now, I don't really consider the overall drama that much different than like the traditional tropes that come with Korean dramas, especially in the poor girl dates rich guy scenario, other than her like faking being her rich best friend, which is kind of unique. Everything else isn't necessarily like out of the box new. I think what makes the drama so fun and engaging is honestly just the characters and the scenarios that they put themselves in. You can tell that the actors had a great time in this. You can just tell they're really enjoying themselves, and I think all of that culminates into a great drama that's engaging, hilarious, and that is all together is just a great time. So to start off the series, meeting our hero, Kim Tae-moo. He's just gotten back into Korea. He spent the last few years managing or heading one of the branches of his grandparents' company, Go Foods. But now he's actually back in Korea to pick up the mantle of CEO. We meet him in this airport scene where he's walking through the airport and he bumps into this lady. He doesn't even realize that he bumped into her because he is too busy looking at an advertisement for his company that he apparently does not like. It's supposed to show you like, oh, this man is a workaholic. All he thinks about is work is the top of his mind. That's his priority in life. I think we also meet Secretary Shaw, which we will also call Hot Secretary because the man's very attractive.
Editing Imani here, I actually call Secretary Cha Professor Cha like the whole video. I think it's because of his glasses. It makes him look very studious. So might be. Just a heads up though.
Apologizes to her, and so we kind of see like he's the person in Kim Tae-moo's life that kind of cleans up a lot of his personal interactions, because a lot of the time Kim Tae-moo can be very work focused. But we meet the two of these characters who come to end up being like two of our main heroes. To our protagonist, her name is Shin Hari, and she's a food researcher for Kim Tae-moo's company, Go Foods. It's like a parody of Bimbingos. I know that company because they serve those soup dumplings from Costco that are really good. That like got me through college, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's like a parody of that company. When we cut to her, she's like working, but apparently she's late to Kim Tae-moo's I guess introduction ceremony. We cut to the inaugural address, and Kim Tae-moo makes Secretary Shaw go give his address for him. And in his address, he says, and I quote, I'm gonna read this: "Let's only meet for business and not for impractical ceremonial events." which honestly, I feel it. But honestly, it's just because he's a workaholic. He's too busy working. He doesn't see these events as like important. So that kind of leaves a sour taste in everyone's mouth, especially the former CEO, the chairman, his grandfather. But the most important part of the scene is that Shin Hari does not know what Kim Tae-moo, her boss and CEO, looks like. She doesn't know what he looks like. So that's important to note. So later that day, Hari gets a text from Minwoo. Now, I'm going to talk more about Minwoo later, but just know that I am a Minwoo hater, okay? If Minwoo had 1 million haters, I'm one of them. If Minwoo had 10 haters, I'm one of them. Minwoo has 1 hater, I'm the one. Minwoo has no haters, I'm dead. She meets Minwoo she gets a text from Minwoo. And Minwoo is one of her college friends. So they met in college and he's now a professional chef. He has his own restaurant. She's like helped him create some of his dishes at the restaurant, that kind of thing. He gets a text because he has something that he wants to give her. And we also learned that that day is also her birthday. So he like has a birthday gift to give her. So on her way there, she calls her best friend, Young-seo. Now Young-seo is a rich bitch, okay? She is the only daughter and offspring of her father, who's the CEO of this big company in Korea. But she's not like other heirs, okay? Like, she works. She's a working woman. She wants to marry for love. She works for her own, kind of, not really. She still lives off her rich father. Passionate about her career and like what she wants to do. And so she's not like other rich heiresses, okay? Hari calls Young-seo. She's like, oh, I'm gonna go see Minwoo. He says there's a gift for me. And Young-seo's like, oh, maybe it's that expensive necklace that we found in his restaurant. Maybe he's going to go confess his feelings for you after all this time. Anyone who has watched a K-drama ever knows that this is not what's going to happen. But Shin Hari's excited. She's like, oh, maybe I finally got my bag. She gets there now. The necklace was for a customer. He was holding it for a customer because they're doing this event. But what he did give her is concert tickets to one of their favorite artists. Is it concert tickets for the 2 of them to go see the artist? No, it's concert tickets for her. And he gives her a second concert ticket. And he's basically like, don't go see it with Young-seo. Go get you a man and go see it with him. I feel some type of way if someone gave me concert tickets and was like, you should go see it with a man. Oh, and another thing, why would you make her go all the way to see you to get the concert tickets? You saying there's not a Korean Ticketmaster? You know you can just text ticket concerts to other people, right? You can do a wallet transfer. Like, that is a thing. You're gonna make me waste a bus pass to go. Anyway, the main thing is she gets these concert tickets. She's sad because she realizes Minwoo does not like her for real. She just goes and she goes back home to work with her family and their chicken shop. So her family owns their own fried chicken shop. I mean, their chicken does look good, I'm not gonna lie to you. We learned, so she has her mom and her dad, and then she also has a little brother. Her brother and her family, they end up getting into a fight with their neighbor. They have their own shop across the street. And it ends with the neighbor going to the hospital and Shin Hari basically having this $600 hospital bill that she has to pay, but she doesn't necessarily have the money to pay for it. So that leaves her in a little predicament, sticky situation. And it's on her birthday. So we cut back to Tae-moo. He had skipped his CEO ceremony. So his grandfather is rightfully upset. He's like, you know, can't believe I gave you all this responsibility and you can't even show up. But you quickly learn that they actually have a very close relationship. A lot of their relationship is filled with a lot of banter and teasing, but you can tell that they both really love and cherish each other a lot. Tae-moo says something along the lines of, well, you should trust me because remember, none of my projects fail. Chairman, he's like, well, here's your new project. Time for you to get married. I want grandkids and it's time for you to get a wife. Tae-moo's like, I literally just got back to Korea. I'm trying to settle into my life, my new job. I do not have time to be out here trying to get married. And the chairman said, don't worry about it, baby. Okay, I'm the millionaire matchmaker. Tae-moo's like, no, I'm not doing it. But the thing is, one of the first things that Taemoo does as CEO is that he fires an executive because the executive was doing like really shady things. He was accepting bribes for contracts, which is illegal. He was like giving money to some people, real shady behavior. But he was also well connected. And so the chairman, when he was CEO, he kind of looked the other way because there was a personal connection between him and the chairman, and I think the exec's father or something like that. And so when the chairman learns that Kim Tae-moo fired him, he's like, if you don't go on these dates, the chairman gonna come back. Kim Tae-moo was like, I'm CEO now, like that's what I'm still. He was like, no, remember, I'm still the chairman, so I can still do what I need to do. So if you want this dude to be fired, you're gonna have to go on these dates. So Kim Tae-moo agrees to start going on the dates. We cut to Young Seo, and she's buying stuff from the convenience store. And she accidentally leaves her car keys in her wallet when she gets distracted when a kid like bumps into her. Secretary Cha is in the convenience store and sees the interaction between her and the child. He actually sees that she left her car keys in her wallet, so he goes to return it to her, and she sees him and she's like, oh my gosh, this is the love of my life. This is my husband. I finally found him. And then they just kind of awkwardly say goodbye to each other and they leave. So we have the start of our second couple, Young Seo and Secretary Cha. So we cut back to Taemoo. Now, one of these dates is with Young Seo. And when Young Seo finds out about this, she's like pissed. We learned that the relationship with her dad is actually kind of rocky because she does want to work and she wants to be independent. And she also wants to marry someone for love. She doesn't want to go on a blind date. She doesn't want to be set up in an arranged marriage. She wants to find someone that she loves and then marries them and be equals and all of that. And so we've learned that, and she's actually used Hari before whenever has to go on these blind dates as like her partner in crime. So like there's one date that she went on and she performed like a seance or an exorcism to like freak the dates out, but she really doesn't want to go on this one. So she asked Hari to go as her and like act crazy so Kim Tae-moo wouldn't be attracted to her or want to marry her. Now remember, she and Hari need some money because she got this hospital bill she needs to pay. So after some prodding and some begging, Shin Hari agrees to go on the date for Young Seo. So shenanigans ensue. So they do the whole like turning her into a vixen. So like they give her a whole new outfit. She changes her hair. She does her makeup completely different. She's supposed to look like a completely different version of herself. I would say it's they do it very realistically, where it's like she doesn't look completely different from herself. It's like a bad bitch version of herself, where it's like if you really, really know someone and you see them, you can recognize them. But if you kind of know them in passing and you only know them as like their regular selves, but then when they turn into a bad bitch, you kind of have to be like, wait, is that who I think it is? They turn her into this vixen / insta baddie, and she goes on the date and shenanigans ensue. She shows up to the date first. She sits down. Kim Tae-moo shows up. He sits down, he hands her a business card to be like, hey, like, I really am this person. And that's when she realizes that he is the CEO of her company. And so that he is her boss. And so she freaks out for a second. She's like, oh shit. But then she remembers he's the CEO. He's not even gonna see me like that for real. And I look completely different, so he's not gonna recognize me anyways. So she's like, let me just do my job. Let me freak him out enough to not want to see me again. And this won't be an issue. She does this whole thing. She like names her boos Samantha and Rachel. She talks about them in third person. She says like she dates them a multitude of guys. She does like the whole like, oh, sexual seductress thing, but like overbearing, so it kind of creeps him out. And then she's like, do you want to go get a room together? And he's like, a room? And she's like, yeah. Right? Thinking that was gonna push him away. Kim Tae-moo said, okay, I'm gonna go get a room. She was like, oh shit. So they go to the hotel and he gets them a room. They in this hotel, about to go up to get to this room where they're stopped by this lady. And this lady like tries to accost Shin Hari because she looks like the woman that her boyfriend has been cheating on her with. So she's like, you I just saw you earlier today with my boyfriend. And she was like, here, and she sees a picture, and there literally is a girl. She looks exactly like Shin-Hari, like the hair, the outfit, everything. Kim Tae-moo is like, hey, it takes two to cheat, okay? So maybe instead of trying to fight her, go get your boyfriend under, well, he says like under control. So you don't need to be mad at her, you need to be mad at him. And I'm like, okay, feminist king. So they end up leaving the hotel. Anyways, crazy girl follows them out. She's like, you've been sleeping with my husband. Shin-Hari's like, well, gotta go. And she just starts running. And the scene ends with the two of them like running off. And Kim Tae-moo being like, what the hell just happened? What is going on? So it cuts to Tae-moo. He's back in the car. Professor Cha's taking him home. And he starts recapping the day and everything that's going on. And Secretary Cha's like, oh, well, sounds like a waste of time. Sorry, the date didn't go well. The chairman calls and he's like, oh, the date ended early? I guess it didn't go well. Do you want me to schedule more dates? And he was like, no, I think she's the one I want to marry. And it was just funny. Both of their reactions were like, what? And then you learn he thinks she's funny, genuinely likes her. Most importantly, he doesn't want to waste more time. Like, to him, work is number one. He doesn't want to keep going on these dates that he's not going to be happy with. He wants to avoid the dates as much as possible, even if it means marrying someone like the fake Young-seo. We learn as an audience, okay, they want to get married, or he wants to marry her. Young-seo and Shin-Hari don't know that. So it cuts to them. They're like out celebrating, like, woo, yeah. Young-seo gets a call and her father's like, yeah, he's trying to get married. And Young-seo's like, girl, he's trying to get married. And she's like, what? And she was like, girl, if after the way that I acted with him, if he wants to get married, you might as well just marry him, because that man is obviously desperate. So somehow, Young-seo convinces Shin-Hari to meet with him again so she can convince him that she doesn't want to get married to him. So she meets him again. He tries to convince her, like, hey, I really want to get married. Like, I think this will work out. In reality, he just doesn't want to keep going on dates. And when he tries to convince her, we get one of the most iconic lines from the drama.
그리고 다방면으로 잘합니다.
No. Well,
despite all of this, Hari's like, no, I don't want to marry you. And then she leaves. Well, on her way back home, she sees Minwoo across the street and she freaks out because she knows if he sees her, he's gonna recognize her, obviously, because he actually knows like who she is and what she looks like. And she's like, oh no, he's gonna recognize me. So, and this is when the shenanigans of, this is like the perfect scenario of how you have to suspend your belief a little bit when it comes to this drama, because some of the scenarios that they put themselves in, it's just so dumb, but it's so funny. So she like freaks out and decides to get into a random car on the street because she's so freaked out. She doesn't want him to see her. Well, obviously the car is Kim Tae-moo's. Episode 2. Episode 2 picks up. Obviously Hari's a little shocked because she ended up in Tae-moo's car. He says, oh, I thought you didn't want to marry me. Why are you in my car? She's like, honestly, I was just doubling back because I just want to make sure that you knew that I do not like you. I do not want to marry you. I hate you. Your style, whack. Your cheesy lines, whack. The way you look like an archaeopteryx, whack. No, I don't want to marry you. And then she like just leaves out of the car. Mind you, while she's insulting Kim Tae-moo, Secretary Cha is in the front cracking up. He is like, he do look like a bird. She not lying. She is not lying. It's the next day and Hari's in the lobby and she sees Tae-moo, obviously because they both work there. Remember, this is her boss. And she freaks out. She freaks out, like almost trips. Somehow, her shoe slips, flips in the air, and lands right in his nose, and his nose starts to bleed. Now she freaks out, and instead of running out of the building, at least, that's the least you could do, she runs just in the building. She starts running. And he's like, well, she's running, I have to run after her. So starts a whole like chase sequence in their workplace. Like, can you imagine? You're just doing your work, and all of a sudden you just see a random girl in a white lab coat just booking it. And then you're like, huh, that's strange. I hope she's okay. And then 5 seconds later, you see your CEO running after her. I'd have to go home. I have this whole chase scene, and it basically ends with her in the elevator. Then he finally catches her, and he hands her a shoe back. Like, why did you run? She's like, well, I was scared. Like, I hit you in your face. I got scared, so I just ran. And then he says, oh, wait, you're Shin-Hari. And so she freaks out. She's like, oh my God, how does he know who I am? She was like, I really love your work. Like, you've had great ideas. I think that you're very innovative. You can see her, like, when she starts talking about her work, she like perks up. She's like, yeah, I did. This was such a good idea for mine. And I feel like if we would have went with this idea that I had, we would have been at the top of the industry, that whole thing. So now we have Kim Tae-moo finally being able to meet Shin-Hari, like who she is as a person, not the fake Young-seo. And it goes off to a good start, and he seems to really respect her as a food researcher. Now, if I was her, I would really learn how to compartmentalize, right? Because at the end of the day, the thing is, you are a lowly employee. You know what I mean? Like, he's not really gonna be checking for you for real. And you're not even in your bad bitch get up, right? So he's not gonna recognize you. So because Kim Tae-moo is still insisting that he wants to get married to Young-seo, Young-seo decides, okay, it's time for me to meet him and just tell him that I am me. So Hari and Young-seo agree that the story is that Hari is just a random actress that Young-seo does not know. Now Young-seo goes to meet him, and what would you know? Boom bang. She almost gets into an accident with Secretary Cha, right? Who's driving Tae-moo, so that way he can go meet Young-seo. And so he almost gets in an accident with her. She's like, oh, hi, my husband. She's like, oh, here's my information. He was like, you're Young-seo? I don't think you're Young-seo. And then that's when Tae-moo finds out, oh, I've been bamboozled. So they go to talk, and she ends up telling him the lie of like, oh, she was just a random actress. I don't know who she is. But he ends up catching her in her lie, because he's like, oh, your bag is the same as hers. So you guys have the same bag. And she's like, no, my bag is from the Chanel season 3 collection. And her bag wears Versace's fall collection. So like, they're not the same bag. And he's like, but I thought you never met her. I thought she was just a random person. How would you know that? Now, if I was Young-seo, I would just make up a dumb, excuse. Oh, I told her what to wear. Or like, I was very particular about the style that I wanted, so I knew what she was wearing. I told her to send me a picture. Like, I would just BS some stuff like that. But I guess for plot purposes, that wouldn't work. He basically threatens her. He says, I want to meet her. Like, the person who basically led me on this whole time. So if you don't let me meet her, I will tell your dad what you did. And so that kind of freaks Young-seo out, and she was like, well, I'll try my best. I'll try to get you guys to meet. So from there, we cut to a scene with Secretary Cha coming back from his apartment from picking up some groceries. Apparently, Tae-moo cleans and cooks Secretary Cha's apartment in order to de-stress. We also learn that their relationship is actually more than just a secretary and a CEO. They're actually more like best friends. So they start discussing the Hari Young-seo situation. And basically you realize how mad Tae-moo is. So not only did she waste my time, but she also insulted me. She said that I was cheesy. She said she would never marry me. And she also said that I look like a prehistoric bird. And I mean, if I was him, I'd be upset too. Like, I see where he's coming from. So Young-seo basically tricks Shin-Hari into meeting with Kim Tae-moo. She calls her up and she's like, hey, I just wanted to take you out, like, to thank you for all you've done. You're such a great friend.
And all you do is backstab people. You need to change.
Kind of like what she did for the fake date. She gives her a new outfit. She changes her hair. She basically makes her look like her fake persona. And she's like, oh, let's go to this cafe. And she basically says, hey, I'm sorry. I lied. Kim Tae-moo's coming. I'm so sorry I'm putting you in this situation again. And she runs off. Hari ends up freaking out. And in this freak out, we get the first use of this drama's favorite plot device. Shin-Hari dropping shit out of her bag. Hashtag Hari needs a purse with zippers. This Drama loves to use Shin Hari dropping shit out of her bag as like their like the best way to move the plot along. And you'll see as we continue down this episode. This is not the first time that this changes the plot in any way. She had like all of these business cards of her family's chicken shop in her purse, and she ends up dropping it everywhere on the floor. So she just starts picking them up, and she's like, oh no, oh no. Well, Kim Tae-moo comes in and picks one up, and he's like, what's this? Do you know these people? Is this your chicken shop? Now, if I was her, again, I'm not in this situation, but I feel like I would have came up with some lie like, oh no, I actually work at a print shop. I was supposed to be delivering these. It's my cousin's second uncle, twice removed chicken shop. They want me to put these in businesses or something. I would have came up with something so he wouldn't know where I lived, but I digress. Down, she apologizes and says, if I could do anything to help you, I would. Which basically just opens up, he's like, oh, so you feel indebted to me. Great. But she basically apologizes. She's like, I'm so sorry for leading you on. I was just helping my friend. I felt like she was put in a bad situation. I promise I'm a good person. I will never do something like this again. He asked her like, well, can you even tell me like, what's your real name? And she lies and says, oh, it's Se-jeong. And I probably won't talk about this after this mention, but there's a running joke in the episodes where the chairman is watching this Korean drama called Be Strong Shin-gyum-hee, and the events of that Korean drama actually mirrors what's going on in Shin Hari's and Tae-moo's like romance together. She names herself, unknowingly she names herself after that character. And so he's like, okay, well, Miss Shin-gyum-hee, I have her number now. Pick up, or I will come to the chicken shop and find you. Yikes. So later, Kim Tae-moo gets home and he basically tells the chairman, hey, I canceled the wedding. The wedding is off. So the chairman said, oh, the wedding's off, huh? Well, time for you to get back on the bandwagon. And he schedules like 10 dates in a day. And so he goes on this whole like montage of all these different dates. And he's like, all these women are saying the same thing. They're so boring. Which, like, if you think back to how he felt in his relationship, in his date with Young Seo, at least she was interesting. At least she was funny. Like, at least I wasn't bored. So he tells the chairman, yeah, I didn't like any of them. They're just not right for me. And he was like, well, that's okay. I can just schedule 20 dates tomorrow. We have a whole list of women. We can even go international. It doesn't mean anything to me. Tae-moo basically just freaks out. He basically says, cancel all these dates. I actually have a girlfriend and I just didn't want to tell you. And the chairman's like, what, you have a girlfriend? And he's like, yes, I have a girlfriend. I will introduce you to her soon. We all know he don't got a girlfriend, so what's he gonna do? So Tae-moo then meets with Hari again, and he basically asks her to lie and pretend to be his girlfriend. He also offers to pay her a lot of money, and we get a whole montage where we basically learn that though she lives with her parents, she did go to school, she has a lot of student loans. Even though she has a nice job, she's still struggling to pay things back. But despite this, she's still very hesitant and she wants to decline. One thing, because again, she had already been deceitful. She feels really bad about that. But two, he's her boss. He doesn't know her real identity. She's still undercover. I mean, sis, don't mess up the bag. Don't mess up the long-term bag for a short-term gain. Listen, that's a sermon right there. So she basically tells him like, I'll think about it, but she really is like really hesitant. Later, he literally stops by her house. Hari lives above the chicken shop. So remember, he has her address now. He stops by her house because he wants to convince her like, hey, I really need you to be my girlfriend because I told my grandfather, hey, I have a girlfriend. Well, they're outside the chicken shop. She sees her brother coming. She's like, oh shit, like you're gonna blow my cover. So she like tries to push him and tries to like get him out of the way so her brother doesn't see. Well, in the old K-drama classic fashion, pushes him, he starts to fall and he pulls her with him. So they both fall and lo and behold, they have their first kiss. It's love. Episode 3. Had their first unofficial official kiss. And I guess because she feels an overwhelming sense of guilt, she decides, you know what? I will actually take you up on your offer and I will be your fake girlfriend. So they make a whole contract. And the biggest thing to know about the contract is that if she doesn't fulfill it, then she has to pay back 10 times the amount that he is paying her in order to null the contract. So basically she would be in a shit ton of debt to him if this doesn't go off smoothly. So after signing the contract, she starts learning about him and his identity, because obviously they're going to pretend to be in a relationship. He needs to know about her, which they create a fake background for her so she's more acceptable for his grandfather, and she needs to know everything about him. So she really starts to learn and get into her role as like Shin Gyum Hee, like she is Shin Gyum Hee. So she's having lunch with Young Seo, and she mentions in his background how his parents passed away at a young age. And Young Seo's like, oh, that's right, I remember that. There's a lot of rumors swirling around about the two of them, about his parents passing away. It may have been an inside job, which means someone in their family tried to kill his parents because of maybe company issues, or they felt like they were a threat to their place in the company. And so because of that, the chairman ended up firing all of his family members from the company. So it's just him and Kim Tae-moo who actually work there. So Hari's at work. I'm assuming it's the next day or a few days after. Their current project at their job is that they're supposed to be collaborating with either a celebrity chef or a famous chef to make new meals. And the chef that they had been collaborating with was just involved in a huge scandal, so they can no longer work with him. So now the team is scrambling to come up with another dish idea and another chef. And Hari, being best friends with the chef, trifling ass Minwoo. Now, I will just say, episode 3 is like when I really got on the Minwoo hate train. Like, this is when I was like, F that man and everything he stands for, honestly. Hari decides to come up with a white kimchi ravioli dish with Minwoo. So she goes to Minwoo, they take pictures, they come up with a dish, and she basically stays up all night to create a presentation and an idea so she can present it to her boss. She ends up presenting it to her boss. Her boss was super impressed. She was like, yes, I think this is what we should go for, and I think that you should present it to Kim Tae-moo and all of the other teams. And at this, obviously, Hari's like, what? Present to who? So after some pushing and prodding, what ends up happening is this really funny scene where Hari basically shows up decked out like full 2020 gear. Like, she looks like what I looked like when I used to go to Walmart in 2020. That's what I used to wear. So she ends up presenting her idea. It's a big hit. They're like, yes, we definitely should do it. And so to celebrate, she goes over to Minwoo's restaurant so she can tell him the news. Child, why she walking there? And he up there macking with his ex-girlfriend.
Yup.
She's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Oh, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I can come back later. And she like books out of there. She goes to the bus stop. She's basically sitting at the bus stop and she just starts, like, you could tell she's like starting to break down, because she essentially spent all those years waiting around for him to realize that like they should be together and that she's the one for him. Now, I will say, in general, I'm not trying to defend Minwoo, but in general, you should never wait around for somebody like that. You know, like, if you really like someone, especially if they're like not in a relationship, you're not in a relationship, you guys are good friends, just be open and honest. Just be like, hey, I have feelings for you. We should try this out. Like, don't get mad because they don't try with you, but then they get in a relationship with someone else when you didn't even let them know that you have feelings for them. You know, the bus comes, some idiot is late, so they like push her, all her stuff goes flying. So she's trying to like collect all of her work stuff and her phone. She tries to grab her phone, and when I tell you, this is my worst nightmare, her phone falls in the storm drain. But see, the only reason why she even knew her phone was over there is because it was ringing. And who was on the other line? Kim Tae-moo. So unbeknownst to her, Kim Tae-moo is on the line with her, and I guess her phone dropping in the storm drain, the last resort. Like, that's like the straw on the camel's back. She just starts bawling because the person that she loved for 7 years, she realizes she'll never be with, in a stressful situation where she may get fired because of her job, and she's just having a shitty day in general. So she just starts crying. Young Seo ends up having dinner with her father one day. He's upset with her, obviously, because remember, they were supposed to getting married. Father and the chairman, they thought there was going to be family. And also, even though the Marine Group, which is Young-seo's company, is big, the chairman, Tae-moo's company, is way bigger. So that would have been very advantageous for the two of them to get married. It would have been very advantageous for Young-seo and her family. And so he's very disappointed. He's very upset that they're supposed to get married and now they're not. Basically demands that she get married. And she's like, well, no one in Korea wants to marry me because of my crazy exorcist dates. Like, the rumors have gotten around. No one wants to be with me. At this point, I guess I'm just better off single. And like, I don't know how you're gonna find somebody. And the father's like, oh, we can go international. That ain't no problem. They don't gotta be Korean. We can find somebody, but you gonna marry. And she brings up a point, which is, well, you had an arranged marriage and now you guys are divorced. And I had a very unhappy childhood because of that. Why would I want to do that myself? Her father did the classic, and I mean, Black parents love to do this too, so I guess this is a universal thing. But he did the classic, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to live here. And Young-seo said, okay, I'll leave. And she packs up, and as she's walking out the door, her father said, and leave your credit cards too. And she said, oh, my credit cards? I was not expecting that. Here's the thing, Young-seo is very down to earth, right? Like, she doesn't let money or status dictate how she moves in the world, who she talks to, who she's friends with, who she's close to. But at the end of the day, she grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth. She's never really, even though she has a job, she's never had to seriously work for anything. This is the start of her development of truly relying on herself and being truly independent. Also learning what it's like to be a regular person. So she moves in with Hari and Hari's family for a few nights, starts to look for a place to stay. So she's there for a few nights, ends up finding an apartment that is affordable for her and also nice enough. And that apartment just so happens to be next to Secretary Cha, the hot secretary, the person that she fell in love with at first sight. Won't God do it? Yes, he will. Amen. But it's a few days before she realizes that they're neighbors. She's chilling out. She's finally unpacked everything in her apartment. Everything's great. And she sees a cockroach that's obviously there to try to kill her because cockroaches are evil. They're trying to take over the world. We all know this. So she sees the cockroach. She's super scared. So she knocks on his door and she's like, can you kill it for me? Can you kill it for me? After this whole scene where he like kills the cockroach. But she says, thank you. And you know, oh, since we're neighbors, I hope that this will give us the space and opportunity to become friends. Because remember, she's interested in him. And he's like, nah, sis. We ain't gonna be friends because the way that you tricked Tae-moo and you led him on and you like purposely wasted my friend's time with your little scheme, I'm not with that. She doesn't realize that like him and Tae-moo are actually friends outside of work. But for him, in his point of view, this is a woman that tricked his best friend / basically brother and led him on. So like he doesn't want to associate himself with her, despite the fact that he also is very attracted and really likes her. So fast forward, and it's time for Shim Gun-hee to meet the chairman. And things kind of seem off to a slow start. Shim Gun-hee is trying her best on the charm. She's trying to be the best, but the chairman is definitely coming off a little cold, a little distant. He's not really trying to engage very well with her. In a place of desperation, Gun-hee decides to go off on her own story about how she basically almost broke up with Kim Tae-moo because he was just so involved with work and he never spent time with her.
He was all about his work and I was just tired of that, so I told him we need to break up. But then he canceled a meeting and went through the rain just to see me. And that's when I knew that he was really serious about me.
And you could automatically see grandfather like perk up like, he even went through the rain for you? Is this true, Tae-moo? Now after they ate, Tae-moo basically snaps at Shim Gun-hee. He's like, he didn't appreciate her lying and telling that story. And so obviously as an audience, you're supposed to be like, what? Why does he hate the rain? But it's like, it's obvious. It's like, we have a CEO with a tragic backstory. His parents died and he hates the rain. They end up getting dessert with the chairman. And while they're eating, the good old Shin Hari needs a zipper on her purse trope pops up. She knocks over her purse and she realizes one thing, her wallet came out, which has her ID. And she was like so involved, like, oh, I need to get that before he sees my ID and sees that I'm not who I say I am. That she didn't notice her concert tickets that had dropped out. So he picks up the tickets and he's like, oh, this is for today. And then he looks, he assumes, oh, you wanted to take yourself and Kim Tae-moo to the concert and you didn't even tell him? And then he starts berating Kim Tae-moo. He's like, grandson, she even bought tickets for you, but she was too afraid to tell you because she knew you'd be so involved in work. You know what? The two of y'all need to go to this concert. Now, this, when I tell you this following scene at the concert, this is what really got me on the Minwoo is trash. So the two of them end up going to this concert. I'm not sure if they're like a real life K-pop band or not, but it's like a duo. It's these two guys. I guess one plays the instruments and the other one sings or whatever. Minwoo had written into these artists and he basically paints her as like a woman who was always doing the most for him, who was always there for him, always a shoulder to cry on, and how he really just wants her to be that for somebody else. Mind you, this is all being said to the audience, and the audience could put 2 and 2 together, which means, oh, this girl is in love with him, that guy is not in love with her. He even says, I hope that she's here tonight with somebody else and someone who's gonna love her, because I ain't gonna do that. They followed that up with a song that apparently was like the song that bonded Shinhari and Minwoo together in college, because they both had a love for not only the same artist but the same song from that artist, and so they end up singing that song like in tribute to that. And so obviously the girl, she just accepted that the two of them ain't never gonna be together, so obviously she starts crying again. She just can't catch a break. The song was a really nice song. Imagine now the nigga that made you hate the song, because now every time you hear the song, you're gonna think about the time that he embarrassed you at the concert. I'm going for a walk after the concert, and Kim Tae-moo asked her like about her crush. Like, you know, people around me basically said I was the replacement boyfriend, you know, like what's going on? Like, are you with somebody? You seem to have really loved that person for 7 years. Like, that's a lot. And so she ends up explaining, like, at this point, I've accepted we can't be together. He's back together with his girlfriend. I need to move on with my life, and I'm gonna be okay. He tries to comfort her, and he's like, you know, honestly, it shows your resilience. If a guy ever compliments you on resilience in real life, if a guy ever compliments you on your resilience, run, okay? Look up Ayana and Jared off of season 2 of Love is Blind. Back to the business proposal. The fact that you're able to stick with something for 7 years throughout the good and the bad, it really shows like how strong and resilient you are. Like, I really admire that about you. They end up stopping to get food at a food stand. She's like off to the side standing with her phone, and out of nowhere a baseball comes up her way and hits her right in the eye. Tae-moo goes to a local like gas station. I don't know what they're called, like corner store. So he ends up going to a local corner store to get her some ice, and they're talking, and she's like, you know, why you keep saying that you're wasting time, but if you're gonna spend all this time with me, you might as well use that time with someone you're actually gonna marry. Her reason why he was going to get married to her was because he didn't want to waste any more time. But really, by having this fake relationship, he's just wasting time trying to convince his grandfather that he's a relationship, rather than trying to find a real relationship and getting married and having kids and having all of that. The next morning, Hari is walking into work, puts on the eye patch and everything. She gets to the elevator, and the elevator's about to close, and then all of a sudden it's open. And she sees Kim Tae-moo and she freaks out. Episode 4. We pick back up to the next day. She runs into Kim Tae-moo. He remarks, oh, you have a patch on your eye, like, are you okay? And instead of acting like a regular person, she's like, what? Huh? What? Oh, I have a sty. And then Naruto runs out of the elevator like a weirdo. Like, girl, calm down. So later that day, the company is holding a tasting event for all of the different food development teams that have been developed. A dish that they've been working on with their celebrity chef. Remember, Shinhari and Minwoo are working on a dish together. Their dish is white ravioli kimchi, which sounds interesting. I'd try it. So Hari obviously realizes that Kim Tae-moo is going to be at this tasting event, and so she does the old-fashioned, ooh, my stomach, oh, I'm sick, I can't go. So she spends the entire event in the bathroom. But despite her absence, the dish is a hit. Everyone loves it, and they're one of the dishes that is then picked to go into development, and they will actually be producing the white kimchi ravioli like for sale. So to celebrate, Hari and Minwoo get dinner, and during dinner Minwoo asks like, oh, did you go to the concert? And then he has the nerve to say, well, I know you went with Young-seo. I really wish you wouldn't went with the guy. And Hari said, oh, actually, I did go with the guy. Y'all, the look on this man's face. But you could tell he's just like, one thing shocked, shook, and a little upset. And he's like, well, you know, you don't really know much about men. You probably don't even know if he's a good guy. How do you know he's right for you? So she, I love this from her. She says, worry about your girlfriend, because remember, he's in a relationship. She says, worry about your girlfriend and everything. You don't have to worry about me. I'm okay. So they're winding down their dinner, and Taemoo comes to visit because obviously, again, their dish was such a good hit. He's like, you know what? I want to come to the restaurant, to the chef's restaurant, and taste his food. Well, Shin Hari walks out the bathroom, sees his ass, and said, oh, time to go. And she literally crawls out of the restaurant. But Taemoo goes, he has dinner, and he starts to ask Minwoo about his relationship with Shin Hari. He was like, you know, how do you guys know each other? Oh, we've been college friends. We've known each other for 7 years. And then he asks a really invasive question, really random out of nowhere. And he says, well, 7 years is a long time. Are there any feelings between the two of you? I was just wondering, I want to know. And I think he kind of has it in his head, 7 years. His conversation with Goom Hee, who also had a crush for 7 years, but obviously we know this is the same person. So it's like he's asking like, well, do you guys have feelings for each other? Because I know someone else who had a crush for 7 years. After the meal, he's driving back. Him and Secretary Cha are driving back, and Secretary Cha's like, you know, I heard from a friend of a friend that the streets were saying that Hari does actually have a crush on Minwoo, and she's had a crush on him for some time. And he's like, what? Shin Hari has had a crush on the same guy for 7 years. Shin Goom Hee has had a crush on the same guy for 7 years. Wow, that must be really common. I'm gonna check in with Young-seo and Secretary Cha. Young-seo is still trying to make overtures to him. She's still trying to become his friend, become closer. And he's like, no, you fucked up with Kim Taemoo, and I'm just not with that. She's like, can't we just be friends? And he's like, no, you fucked up with Kim Taemoo. I'm not doing this with you. And she's like, why is he so loyal? He's just your boss. Cut to Secretary Cha going to go visit his childhood home, which is also Kim Taemoo's home, because basically adopted brothers. So we come to learn that Se-jeong Cha is actually an orphan, and the chairman actually adopted him at a younger age. Though like the chairman gives preference to Taemoo, and like in the world's eyes, Taemoo is like his only son, he's the only child. At the end of the day, the chairman sees Secretary Cha as like a part of the family. Like he is family to him. Let's keep this in mind because his background is important like later down the line as the story and the relationship with Young-seo develops. So Taemoo, Secretary Cha, and Chairman are having family dinner. An alert comes on Secretary Cha's phone. The alert is actually to remind Secretary Cha that Goom Hee's favorite 1 year anniversary is coming up. So the chairman sees that and he's like, oh, well, you guys, you have to make sure that you celebrate your 1 year anniversary. I'm expecting you to go all out because it's your 1 year anniversary and I'm trying to make sure you get married. Basically, because this is last minute, Taemoo's going to have to like restructure his entire week. He had all these meetings planned. After dinner, Seung-hyo basically apologizes and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Now we're gonna have to change everything. And Taemoo basically shrugs it off and he's like, things change. And Secretary Cha just kind of says to himself like, normally he'd be really upset if something like this happened, but he's not. I wonder why. He's in love, he's in love, he's in love. All right, then we cut to Hari. She's actually on a work trip to film a commercial for the company, and the chairman is actually in the same place doing rich people business. And he sees the Go Foods bus on his way out of town, and he's like, oh, like, let me stop by, let me see what's going on. And so he goes on to the set where they are filming the commercial. He recognizes him and starts freaking out. And instead of acting like a regular person, she starts acting real weird and actually brings more attention to herself than if she would just be regular. Again, Hari goes to her favorite place to hide when she don't know what to do. the bathroom. When she's in the bathroom hiding out from the chairman, she gets a call from Kim Tae-moo, who's reminding her that they have their 1-year anniversary this weekend, and so she needs to clear her schedule because they need to go on this fake date. Interestingly enough, Kim Tae-moo also asked, are you free tonight? I just want to know if you wanted to get dinner. He's in love. Because she's on her work trip, she's like, I can't go, I'm on a work trip. Hari decides that she's been hiding in the bathroom long enough, and she runs out. And at that same exact time, the chairman is walking in, is trying to go to the bathroom. So she bumps into him, realizes that it's him, freaks out, and ends up accidentally pushing him into a bowl on the ground, and he starts rolling around. And she's like, I'm sorry. And then she just Naruto runs away like a weirdo. So let's cut to Young Seo. So Young Seo is settling into her apartment well. She ends up meeting this guy. Ends up meeting a guy who claims to be a furniture designer. You can tell very quickly that he's very romantically interested in her. But there's something that's a little off about him. He definitely tingles the stranger danger alert. And that's quickly confirmed when the creepy neighbor, when Young Seo and Secretary Cha are at the gym at the same time. Secretary Cha realizes that the dude's glasses are fake because he's able to read the time on the clock from across the room without his glasses on. Secretary Cha has glasses, so he knows what it's like to be a blind ass bitch. So he's like, I clocked that, your glasses are fake. So it's we know that there's something really weird about him. Later in the same episode, a creepy neighbor ends up gifting Young Seo a lamp as a welcoming present. He said he made it for her as a way to welcome her to the building. Shim Geum-hee and Tae-moo go on their date. It's that traditional Cinderella date. He takes her to get a new outfit, and then in that new outfit they go to dinner. They're at dinner, they're eating, they're talking, and Shin Hari drops her purse. She goes down to pick it up, he goes down to pick it up, and her dress ends up ripping. At the same time, everyone, the entire hotel restaurant staff goes out with a huge cake to sing congratulations, it's your 1-year anniversary. And you can see at the same time, he's like, oh shit, I have to do something. And so he just quickly runs behind her, stands behind her, so no one can see that her dress had ripped. It really shows there's a true camaraderie and kind of spirit and relationship that's building between them. So it's after the dinner and they go on a little walk, and he ends up ending the night with fireworks. And she says, oh my gosh, these fireworks are so beautiful, they're so pretty. And he says, yes, they are. But he's not looking at the fireworks. He's looking at Shim Geum-hee. Shin Hari home. She leaves. Everything's all hunky-dory. He then starts driving back home, and he looks over and he realizes Geum-hee dropped her stuff, dropped her wallet out of her purse. Again, this drama really likes to use the damn, Hari dropped shit out of her purse. Hashtag give Shin Hari a purse with zippers. He realizes that her wallet had fallen out of her purse, and so he picks it up, and he notices her ID is in there. Except her ID doesn't say Shim Geum-hee. It says Shin Hari. Dum dum dum. Episode 5. All right, so episode 5 starts off. Tae-moo is still reeling from the realization that Shin Geum-hee and Shin Hari are the same person. Also with the realization that he's dating his employee. When I tell you this man is pissed, he is pissed. Because if you think about it from his point of view, right? He was fooled by Shin Hari the first time, and then he still trusted her to do this facade and do this charade of pretending to be his girlfriend, and then she ends up not only deceiving him again, but deceiving him in a way that has real life impact. She's his employee. So he's out for blood. He's on the warpath. He wants to kill her. So the next morning he starts his revenge. So he first calls to meet her, Hari, at a coffee shop during the workday. So she basically has to leave work, put on her bad bitch outfits and her makeup, run across town to meet him at a cafe. And he basically starts not interrogating her, but asking her a lot of questions about herself. So tell me more about your company. Tell me where you got your name from. Does Shim Geum-hee mean something? And he basically wants to see how she can come up with these lies. As they're walking out of the cafe, he purposely calls Secretary Cha when she's in earsight and mentions that he wants to have a meeting with her team. So obviously Hari freaks out. She's like, okay, I have to go. She runs off, has to go change into her regular outfit and then run all the way back to work. She's late to the meeting, and Kim Tae-moo takes this chance to berate her. He then says that the dish that her and Minwoo had been working on, it was too expensive to go into production, so she has to essentially find a way to decrease the cost. So then starts this whole montage of her trying to redo the recipe multiple times. Every time she's like, okay, I think this is good, and she goes up to show it to him. He says, do it again, until she gets fed up, and she's like, keep telling me to do it again, but you're not giving me any feedback on how you want me to change this recipe. You need to tell me, give me detailed feedback on what I need to do. Mr. Tae-moo likes women who take charge, because he's like, his heart starts beating. He's really getting into it. He's like, just do it again, and then he just runs off. The chairman goes and visits Tae-moo at the office, and they start talking about a founding ceremony, which I guess is an annual ceremony that they do every year to celebrate the company. And he mentions that he hasn't seen Shin-gue Hee in a while. Tae-moo comes up with the perfect revenge plan. Make sure that Shin-hari wins an award for the work that she's done, her recipes, things that she deserves it. And you get the sense that she probably would have won the award anyway, like she really deserves it. Out of his way to make sure that she wins the award. Her team's really excited for her. It seems like a really big deal, until she learns that she has to accept the award on the day of the founding ceremony, and she has to accept the award from Kim Tae-moo, which seems like a big deal, but it's like she can kind of figure her way out of that. Like, there's things that she could do, until she learns that she also is expected to go to the ceremony with Kim Tae-moo as Shin-gue Hee. His revenge plan is to require her to be at the same place at the same time in her two different identities. So obviously, when he tells her, hey, you have to come to this award ceremony with me as my date, she tries to get out of it. No, I'm sorry, I have something to do for work. No, I'm sorry. When that doesn't work, it becomes, oh wait, I actually have a family event. He tells her, if you don't go, you're going to have to pay the penalty fee. That will put her in bankruptcy. This makes her really stressed. She doesn't know what to do. To celebrate her getting her award, her team lead and her coworkers go out to a celebration dinner. With all the stress of dealing with her two identities, Shin-hari drinks a lot. So much so that she can't even find her way home. She ends up wandering into a playground very drunken. She ends up calling Kim Tae-moo to basically tell him, hey, I can't come. I know that I'm gonna have to pay the penalty fee, but I can't afford that. Can we please work something out? I just can't. In the middle of her telling him that she can't come, she ends up getting distracted, yelling at some kids who are in the playground, and then she accidentally hangs up. Kim Tae-moo realizes she's drunk, alone. He calls her back, he can't get a hold of her. So he gets really worried, and he goes out on a search mission to try to find her. He ends up finding her in this playground, and oh girl is asleep. She found a slide, and she said she was gonna take her a little nap. Mind you, I've never been to Korea, so I don't know if it's super safe there or not. I'm not sure about the dynamics there, but something about feeling safe enough, even when you're drunk, to fall asleep on a random playground slide is just something I don't think I would ever experience. Finds her and wakes her up, and she thinks that he's a dream. Well, since it's the dream, I will take the chance to get something off my chest.
I'm Shin-gue Hee. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to deceive you. I just didn't know what to do. But I'm living two lives, and I've lied to you, and I just feel so bad about it.
I remember, this man is basically in love with her. So after that drunken confession, his heart just changes. It's like the Grinch. You can see his heart grow three times its size. He's like, oh, but she's sorry. Like, I know she lied to me, but she's sorry. So as a result of this drunken confession, next morning he ends up calling her. Our arrangement is off. You don't have to pretend to be, I have to pretend to date. And at first she's like, wait, what? No. And then she realizes, oh wait, this is my get out of jail card. Yay! Obviously that leaves Kim Tae-moo in a tough situation, because he realizes not only has he dated someone who's been lying to him, not only has he told his grandfather that he's dating someone who doesn't even exist, but he has really, really deep and meaningful feelings for this woman. So he does what every Korean hero does when he has too many emotions, thoughts, and feelings that he doesn't know what to do with. he goes on a business trip to America. So Kang Tae-moo and Secretary Cha go off to the US for a few weeks. She allows Shin Ha-ri to go to the award ceremony to get her award, to celebrate with her family, and to go and have a normal life for a little bit. Meanwhile, Kang Tae-moo's in the US and he can't stop thinking about her. He's at his meetings, he's thinking about her. He's at his hotel, he's thinking about her. He's at the airport, he's thinking about her. He's on the airplane, he's thinking about her. Everything. He just cannot stop thinking about her. And he just has to accept that he has true feelings for this girl. He gets back to Korea knowing that like not really much has changed. He's still in the same predicament, except he's accepted that he has these feelings for her. Now this is when the episode gets dramatic. Cutting to Young-seo. So if you remember episode 4, she meets the creepy guy who's a fashion designer who gives her a lamp, right? Well, apparently the lamp had a recording device on it, and he had been recording her this whole time. Creepster town. He accidentally breaks the lamp and finds the recording device, freaks out, and it's like, oh, I need to get rid of this. So she puts the lamp inside a box and goes to take it out. Well, in the process of her going to take out the lamp, she bumps into the creepy guy. He sees the lamp and he's like, what are you doing? She was like, oh, it broke. I was just gonna go get it fixed. He was like, I can fix it for you. She's like, no, it's fine. And then he realizes that she saw the recording device. He freaks out, takes the lamp, and then starts running off. Well, at the same time, Secretary Cha rolls up to the building and he sees this interaction and sees the dude run off. She's like, this creepy guy's been recording me. He's trying to get rid of the evidence. And Secretary Cha is like, well, this just will not do. So he starts chasing him. The dude starts running. Like, this is like an action movie. He catches up to him, like karate kicks him in the back, and then like restrains him until the police come. Crazy. Cut to Shin Ha-ri, and she gets a call from Grandpa who's like, hey, we're gonna have family dinner. Like, you wanna come and see me? Now, mind you, Tae-moo has not told Grandpa that they broke up. So she feels obligated to go see him because obviously she can't just ignore him. So at the same time, Tae-moo is also rolling up to the restaurant to meet with the chairman. So he rolls up to the restaurant. He calls Secretary Cha and it's like, hey, we're about to have dinner. You should join us. I'm sure Chairman would like you to be here. And Secretary Cha is like, yo, I'm at the police station. And he tells him everything that's going on with Young-seo. At the same time that he's on the phone with Secretary Cha, Shin Ha-ri rolls up. And so he sees her and he's like, hey, Shin Ha-ri, we gotta go. Your best friend is at the police station. It's an emergency. And she's like, what? And he's like, come on, Shin Ha-ri, we gotta go. And she's like, you know who I am? Episode 6. So episode 6 starts with Young-seo and Hari in the police station learning about this creep and how he's been taking videos of them. Unfortunately, they learn that it's going to be a super serious offense and that the most he'll be doing is getting fined. They're very disappointed, but they end up just going home. And it's funny because they would just walk completely past, like Tae-moo and Secretary Cha are there, and they just walk completely past them, like they don't even pay them any mind. Tae-moo and Secretary Cha learn of this and they're not happy. So Tae-moo does what all billionaires should do, which is he uses his money and his power for good. He finds that this is not the first time that this guy has done this. He's actually a serial recorder and he takes videos of women all the time. I didn't really explain the laws between this, but I'm assuming that it's different when it's a first time offense. It's a fine. But if they find that this is something that a person continuously does, then I guess then it gets charged into a criminal charge and that person will actually go to jail. So they used all of his resources to basically show that this man has repeatedly stalked and recorded women, and so this man is now going to go to jail. After the scene, Kang Tae-moo was like, you seem pretty angry about this. Secretary Cha was like, you do too. And we as the audience know it's like, yeah, because you realize that these are both like y'all are falling in love. Okay, you like these women. So it's like the next day and Hari now realizes, wait, Tae-moo now knows my real identity. He starts putting 2 and 2 together about like how he'd been bullying her about making the ravioli and how he'd been treating her. And she realizes, oh, he knows who I am. And she comes to the conclusion that, oh, wait, he's going to fire me. So she starts to avoid him because she doesn't want to get fired. Taemoo realizes that she's avoiding him, and he's kind of hurt by it because he really wants to talk to her. So Taemoo talks to Hot Secretary, and he's like, you know, she's avoiding me, but like I really like her. I'm realizing other than her name, like I know Shin Hari. Yes, I knew her as Shin Gyun Hee, but the only thing that's really changed about her is her name. I've fallen for her. I love her. That is the woman for me. Harry Cha points out, he's like, maybe that's not the best idea. And Taemoo's like, no, that's what I'm going to do. So fast forward to them meeting. He has all these grand plans, like he has this whole cake, this whole confessional put out where he's going to tell her exactly how he feels and hopes that she reciprocates. And that all comes to a halt when Hari shows up and gives him her letter of resignation, but says, I'm giving you this, but I don't want you to fire me. And she goes on a whole spiel about how she's such a great employee and that he should never fire her. And he realizes, oh, we are on two completely different wavelengths. Like, I'm sitting here trying to tell this girl I love her, but she's over here trying to make sure she still got a job. So after that confession is a bust, he then complains to Secretary Cha again, and he's like, you know, why can't she, like, why isn't she attracted to me? I'm rich, I'm tall, like, I'm CEO, and I have all these feelings for her. And he reminds him, like, yeah, for you, maybe these feelings are real, but for Hari, like, this was all fake. She was just fake dating you, right? Like, her feelings are probably not the same where you are. Like, you're gonna have to romance her. Like, you're gonna have to learn how to turn on the charm. You're gonna have to learn how to romance her. You're going to have to date her. And so now starts Operation Woo Woo. It's the next day. She's still like, am I gonna get fired or not? She gave him a whole spiel of why she shouldn't. He brings her up to his office and he says, you know what? I'm not gonna fire you. You're right. You're a great employee. Us work on this super secret project that's gonna make us spend all this time outside of work together. For our first session on this project, we're gonna have to go to the movies. So he rents out this theater for them to go watch this movie where one of the characters is a food researcher. And he said, since you can't go to the US, we're gonna watch this US movie about a food researcher so you'll know what it feels like to be a food researcher in the US. And she's like, that doesn't really make sense, but okay. Obviously, he just wants to have a romantic date with her. Now, it starts off good, all right? Like, he was trying to help her with the chair. They had them a little close face moment where they was looking into each other's eyes. Hari started feeling some heart bumps, some chest palpitations. He was feeling chest palpitations. It was getting romantic, but it all comes crumbling down when Hari runs into her team lead and her coworker. This is a super secret mission. So when she gets into the theater with the two of them, she tells CEO, yo, like, you gotta go. They can't see you here because they can't see the two of us together because we're supposed to be on a super secret mission. But his second attempt at romancing her is a bust because he spends the entire movie in the lobby on his phone. Episode, Hari meets with her college friends just to continue to celebrate her and Minwoo having a food item that's going to be sold in stores. Obviously, that's a big deal. For the collaboration, Minwoo has actually been invited to be on a whole bunch of different networks to talk about his food and cooking and having demos. So it's been a great success, both for Hari and Minwoo professionally. Minwoo's girlfriend goes off to get them like a bottle of wine. And one of their friends mentions that they always thought that Minwoo and Hari would get together because they just always seemed like they would be such a good couple. But Hari is like, no, we've always just been friends. Like, that's just not us, even though she secretly was in love with him for 7 years. She's like, no, we've just always been friends. And, you know, Yura, you can tell, Minwoo's girlfriend, you can tell she's like kind of jealous of Hari, and like I think deep down she knows that Minwoo's feelings about Hari are not 100% platonic. And so she makes a passing comment like, well, I don't know if Hari could ever get a boyfriend because her standards are too high. And young Seo does not like that because she does not like this girl. So she's like, well, yeah, of course she deserves high standards. In fact, Hari has a boyfriend. He's rich, he's hot, and she's tall. And everyone's like, what? She has a boyfriend? And it kind of is giving like, yeah, I got a girlfriend, but she goes to another school energy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, sure. But Minwoo, when I tell you Minwoo looks gutted, he looks like someone killed his cat. And you could tell his girlfriend is like really realizing like, oh, yeah, no, like this guy has my boyfriend has feelings for this girl. But girl, that's what happens when your standards ain't high enough. You better love yourself. Love yourself and leave that man, because he pining after somebody he don't even really want for real. That's the thing. He don't want her. He don't want her. Not for real. Hari and Young Seo are walking home from the dinner that they had with their college friends. And Young Seo's like, listen, I'm sorry. I just had to say that because I do not like that girl. Also, you just need to date Taemu for real. Like, I think y'all really work out. You need to rub it in old girl's face because I do not like her. And honestly, I live for the petty. I live for the petty from Young Seo. She then says, and also, even if you get fired, it's fine because I can just use my connections to get you another job. We all need a friend like her. One who's petty and loyal, period. So obviously, Young Seo is still reeling from what happened to her in the last episode. She's dealing with some PTSD and some trauma from the fact that she unknowingly has been recorded in her own house for multiple days. Every time that she tries to use the restroom in a public place, she basically freaks out and leaves. So she can't pee. Well, this all comes to a head when one day she really has to use the restroom. It's after work and she's stuck in traffic and she can't find a place to pee. She happens to run into Secretary Cha. He offers her a ride home. She's like, okay. She gets in his car. They get stuck in traffic and she's like, listen, I really have to go. And so we have this whole scene of her just quickly leaving the car because she has to use the restroom and like running and trying to find a place. So she finds this restroom, but the restroom is locked. So she's like trying to bang open the door and she's like, I really need to pee, I really need to pee. And all of a sudden we see Secretary Cha right behind her like, well, I followed you because I was worried. She's like, I have to pee, I have to pee. And he's like, oh. And so he ends up like ramming the door open and he like pulls her into the bathroom and he's like, here you go. And she's like, okay, thank you. You can leave. He's like, okay, bye. See, that makes her very embarrassed. Well, obviously after the whole recording situation, remember, Secretary Cha is the one who actually chased down the guy and restrained him until the police got there. And so I guess because of this, he starts feeling more protective of her. So he no longer wants to keep his distance. He actually wants to get closer to her and develop a relationship with her. But because of the whole P-gate, she's really embarrassed, and so she starts to avoid him. So basically the tables have turned where she starts to avoid him, but he really wants to talk to her and develop a relationship with her. This all comes to a head when they run into each other at a local restaurant. They're both a little intoxicated, but Young Seo is like super intoxicated. She's just drinking by herself and eating her food, which I mean, mood. It's like, I don't think that situation was a really big deal. Please stop avoiding me. Like, I really want to talk to you. He then gets a work call to leave to take it. When he comes back, he realizes that she's gone. So he gets concerned because she's a little intoxicated. So he starts, chasing after her, follows her, and he's like, hey, like, let me take you home. Like, your little... And she's like, stop being nice to me. I kept trying to develop a relationship with you and be neighborly, and you kept avoiding me. You told me not to cross the line, so I'm not crossing the line. And stop giving me these mixed signals. I really, really like you, but I'm also dealing with the PTSD of this guy recording me, and I have a lot going on right now, and I don't need your mixed signals. He's like, girl, let me just kiss you. Thus starts the real relationship of Young Seo and Secretary Cha. So after the movie theater was a bust, Taemu does what any young man who has a crush in 2022 does. He stalks her on Instagram. He basically concocts a whole trip. He makes a whole itinerary around things that he knows that Shin Hari wants to do. Then concocts that they're going on a business trip during the weekend. It's so funny because he's trying to like build this environment of romance. Shin Hari is like, oh no, this is my boss. Like, we're not, like, this is very platonic. So like he picks her up at the bus station. He looks all cool in his nice sports car, and he's like, get in. And she's like, no, you're my boss, so you get in and I'll drive. First, they attempt to go to this one restaurant that she's always wanted to go to. It ends up being closed for the day because they ran out of food. So that was kind of disappointing. But he ends up taking her to the ocean, and they magically come across this food truck that she's always wanted to try. They order from there, they have lunch, and then he starts asking her questions. So having questions about her life. So like, how did she become a food researcher. What are her dreams? What are her plans? He really starts to learn about who Shin Hari is as a person, not as Shin Gum-hee, but like her background, but like her background in her life as herself. So everything's going hunky-dory pretty well until they're driving back into the hotel and it starts to rain. Now, remember, Minwoo don't like the rain. So he suddenly stops the car and he's like, get out. Mind you, they're like on the side of the road in a small coastal town. It's like almost the middle of nowhere. So she's like, what? And he's like, get out. I have a meeting I need to go to, or something like that. And so she gets out in the rain and walks all the way to the bus station. Now Hari's better than me because I would have just taken the bus home. I would have been like, forget you, and take the bus home. But she takes the bus home back to the hotel. She's rightfully upset, but there's also a part of her that's worried about him because she's like, there's something about him that seems really off. Like, I hope he's okay. Tammy drives off, and then we see him in the car. He stops it, and he like has a whole breakdown. You see that he's getting like flashbacks, and you're like, as the audience, you're supposed to be like, what is it? What's going on? But I mean, anyone who's watched a K-drama knows rain, troubled backstory, dead parents, it's all connected. So obviously after he had this little breakdown, he realizes, oh shit, I just threw Shin Hari out my car. I don't even know if she's okay. I don't know where she is. He drives to the closest bus station where he assumes she would be, and she's not there. It's because she's already at the hotel. My girl is very self-enterprising. She is self-sufficient. She can find her way back, period. So she ends up catching a bus back to the hotel, and lo and behold, she runs into her college friends, Minwoo's girlfriend, and then some of their other friends. And they're like, oh, Hari, are you here on a trip with your boyfriend? Originally, during their dinner that they had early in the episode, they had mentioned that they were going to, I think it was Busan, to film a TV set with Minwoo for his cooking. But apparently this filming location changed, and so now they're all staying at the same hotel. So they're like, oh, like, you're here with your boyfriend, let's meet him, I really want to meet him. And obviously Hari's like, yikes, my boyfriend does not exist, I did not have one. Until Taemu walks into the hotel. It takes him 0.5 seconds to realize what's going on, and he's like, hey babe, I'm back, did you miss me? So that is the first 6 episodes of The Business Proposal. I would definitely categorize the first 6 episodes as the funniest and most easygoing part of the series. Going forward, it definitely is still overall very fun and light drama, but it does tend to get a little more dramatic as Taemu, Hari, Secretary Cha, and Young Seo begin to develop their relationships. So I'll be posting the recap of episodes 7 through 12 and a total series review on my channel soon. So please give a like and subscribe so you don't miss the second half. Thanks for watching.